In the dim afterglow of a fast food restaurant, the closing shift workers began their nightly ritual of cleaning and shutting down. The restaurant, a small, aged building wedged between newer, gleaming commercial structures, always seemed to groan and settle more as the night deepened, its walls echoing with the day's residual energies. As the crew donned their headsets, a standard practice to coordinate tasks without shouting across the space, an unexpected static hiss began to whisper through the earpieces. The static was a common occurrence, but on this night, it morphed into something more, faint murmuring, like a conversation just out of clear hearing. The employees adjusted their headsets, attributing the noises to interference, yet the sounds persisted, evolved. The whispers became coherent gradually. At first, they seemed like misheard fragments of their own thoughts, suggestions to double-check the locked freezer or re-examine the switched-off fryers. The crew obeyed these whispers without real concern, attributing them to their subconscious checklist. As the nights progressed, the whispers became more directive, steering the staff toward tasks beyond their usual routine. Employees found themselves inexplicably drawn to stand silently by the drive-through window or urged to inspect the dumpster once more. These enigmatic commands led to bizarre findings. Nestled among the refuse was an old, rusted employee name tag, and upon the drive-through window's exterior, a series of deep, unexplained scratches marked the surface, silent testaments to the whisper's unsettling influence. One evening, the whispers guided an employee toward an overlooked storage closet that rarely saw use. In the musty solitude of this confined space, the employee discovered a tattered employee manual from decades past. The manual's pages were yellowed and stiff, brittle with the passage of time. As they leafed through it, a hidden compartment in the binding revealed itself, cradling a yellowed newspaper clipping. The clipping, fragile and faded, reported on a person who had mysteriously disappeared, last seen at that very restaurant. The discovery sent a chill through the air, the past's whispers mingling with the present in the dim light of the closet. The staff began to research, uncovering that the building was the site of numerous unexplained disappearances dating back years, far more than could be attributed to mere coincidence. The whispers, they realized, were not just interference, but seemed to be revealing a darker history hidden within the restaurant's walls. Driven by a mix of fear and need for the truth, the crew followed the whispers like breadcrumbs. Each direction took them deeper into the forgotten or overlooked nooks of the building, each discovery more unsettling than the last. The restaurant, imbued with a history of unspoken stories, seemed to be communicating these lost tales directly into their ears. Finally, the whispers led them to peel back the wallpaper in a neglected corner of the kitchen, revealing an old, sealed-off door. Heart pounding, the team decided to open it, the lock giving way with a reluctant groan. Beyond it lay a narrow, dark hallway, untouched for years, the air stale and heavy with silence. They followed the corridor, which twisted unexpectedly beneath the restaurant, leading to an old, hidden basement. There, the whispers culminated in a chilling crescendo, revealing a room that appeared to be an old, unofficial office, containing belongings of the missing individuals, their personal effects eerily preserved, as if waiting to be claimed. As they stood among the remnants of those forgotten, the whispers suddenly stopped, leaving a suffocating silence. The crew, now burdened with the heavy secret of the building's past, understood that their discovery was not just happenstance, but perhaps orchestrated by the lingering presences of those who had vanished, ensuring their stories were finally acknowledged. Haunted by what they found, the crew members could never view the restaurant the same way again. Each shift became a haunting experience, each whisper of wind a possible voice, each shadow a reminder of the past that whispered through the walls. Late one unremarkable Thursday, Jordan, a college sophomore, snagged an old laptop from a clearance bin at a thrift store. The outer was its price, fit for a student's meager budget. Its previous life was a mystery, marked only by a scratched surface and a worn keyboard, symptoms of a turbulent past, or simply the mundane wear of a daily tool. Upon powering it up, Jordan was greeted not by the usual clutter of outdated programs and forgotten files, but a single, solitary folder labeled Expeditions. Its content was unexpectedly methodical. Maps of dense woodlands with GPS coordinates marked in red, meticulous notes detailing times and dates, observations of weather patterns, and lists of equipment like ropes and shovels. Each entry was impersonal, clinical almost, as if prepared by someone keen on hiding their true intent. Driven by curiosity, Jordan selected a map close to home, a forest known more for its legends of disappearances than its scenic views. The following Saturday, with the map downloaded to their phone, Jordan drove to the edge of the woods. The air was crisp, carrying a hint of mist that clung to the underbrush, dampening sound and time. The coordinates led to a secluded spot deep within the forest, marked by a large, unnatural mound of earth. It was covered in overgrowth. Untouched, it seemed for years, but the shape was unmistakable. A buried secret, perhaps a shallow grave. Jordan began to dig, the soil cold and resisting, until the shovel struck something hard. It was a metal box, heavy and locked, resisting attempts to pry it open. Inside, Jordan found items that shouldn't have been together. A collection of personal belongings, a muddy watch, women's jewelry, several small, faded photographs of different individuals, none smiling, all appearing slightly out of place in their settings. Alongside these personal effects were older, yellowed newspaper clippings about various people who had gone missing in these woods over the decades. Chilled by the implications, Jordan realized the laptop and its contents were likely cataloged by someone deeply involved in these disappearances, maybe documenting their deeds or planning further ones. The anonymity of the laptop's origin suddenly seemed a sinister erasure of identity and responsibility. Returning to the car, Jordan felt the isolation of the woods more acutely. The silence wasn't empty but full of the unspoken, the missing, the buried. Each rustle of leaves turned sinister, a whisper from the past, or perhaps a warning. The decision to involve the police was immediate, the drive back to civilization filled with the urgency of carrying a time bomb. The items were handed over, the maps shown. The story poured out hastily to skeptical officers. An investigation began, tracing the laptop's serial number, uncovering its last registered owner. A now missing local who was last seen heading out for a hike, according to a nearly forgotten police report. The woods were searched again by authorities, this time more thoroughly, uncovering a few more hidden sites, similar catches of personal effects buried beneath the earth. Each discovery is a grim testament to forgotten headlines and unresolved cases. Jordan's involvement ended with their testimony, but the laptop remained at their apartment, seized no longer as evidence, but as a haunting artifact of their brush with hidden truths. It sat, unused, a relic of curiosity's dark potential. Sleep became elusive, filled with dreams of shadowed figures watching from the trees, of whispers carried on the wind, calling Jordan back to the forest. The story of the forgotten folder spread among Jordan's friends, each retelling adding layers of speculation and fear. The laptop was a Pandora's box, revealing more than just hidden data. It uncovered a legacy of darkness that threaded through the local woods, a place marked by the echoes of those who had vanished into its depths. Jordan's world had expanded, not into the light, but into the tangled shadows where reality was more horrifying than any ghost story. Because it was real, it was tangible, and it had a face that could be anyone's, hidden behind the screen of an unassuming second-hand laptop. In the depths of an unrelenting night, under the weak glow of a streetlight, stood a figure cloaked in darkness. Eric, with a curious blend of fear and fascination, had watched it from his window for countless nights. This figure appeared as dusk fell, and did not leave until the first rays of dawn scattered the shadows. It stood silent, ominously still, and always facing Eric's house. Night after night, the figure haunted Eric's thoughts. It never moved, never approached. Yet its presence was profoundly unsettling. Its unwavering vigilance suggested a purpose that Eric's mind raced to decipher, but fear urged him to ignore. Driven by a creeping terror that refused to be stilled, Eric resolved one chilling evening to confront this silent guardian of the night. As he approached, the air grew cold, biting at his skin, the light from the street lamp flickering, as though struggling against an unseen force. Standing before the figure, Eric's breath caught in his throat. Up close, it was unnervingly tangible, more real and present than he had imagined. Its face was obscured by a hood, the features underneath lost in shadow. Reaching out with trembling hands, Eric touched the figure, and his fingers met not fabric, not flesh, but cold stone. In that moment, the figure, a statue, it seemed, pulsed with a dark energy. Eric staggered back as whispers filled the air around him, voices laden with sorrow and pain, echoing from the darkness. The whispers grew into a cacophony, ensnaring Eric in a vortex of sounds that plunged him into the depths of the town's darkest night. The voices spoke of forgotten tragedies, old sins buried deep beneath the town's placid surface. The statue, Eric realized, was a sentinel bound to the land by these very tragedies, a keeper of secrets meant never to be unearthed. Fleeing back to his house, heart pounding in the silence that followed, Eric barricaded himself inside. Yet the visage of the statue haunted his periphery, an indelible specter that watched, that knew, that waited. That night, as Eric lay in bed, the air thick with the residue of his terror, he understood the true horror of the Watcher. It was not just a guardian of secrets, but a herald of a curse that clung to his family's lineage. Each generation had witnessed this figure, a grim reminder of a pact made long ago, a pact that bound his bloodline to the shadows that now whispered through the walls of his home. As the clock chimed the witching hour, the air shifted, a palpable change that pressed down with suffocating weight. Eric watched, paralyzed, as shadows coalesced in the corner of his room, forming the dark silhouette of the Night Watcher. It moved towards him slowly, inexorably, a form of nightmares made manifest. The last thing Eric saw before the shadows enveloped him was the flicker of the streetlight outside, struggling against the dark, one final plea for light before succumbing to the eternal watch of the night. The town of Westwood would wake to one less soul, the secret of the Night Watcher buried once more in the whispering dark, waiting for the next generation to unveil its terrifying truth. Thank you for joining us on these chilling journeys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of suspense and intrigue. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest stories. Until next time, stay curious.